The Arizona sun bled across my mother's backyard, glinting off the string lights that swayed above the table. Laughter drifted through the air, soft, rehearsed, perfectly hollow. My graduation cake sat at the edge of the buffet, white frosting, blue letters spelling, "Congrats, Eve." Mason, my 10-year-old nephew, smirked at me, then pushed it. The cake slid, tumbled, and burst across the wooden deck. Candles rolled under people's feet, frosting smeared like spilled silence. For a second, no one spoke. Then came the laughter. My mother laughed the loudest. "Oh, for heaven's sake, it's just a cake. Don't be so sensitive, Evelyn." I stood there, the knife still in my hand, feeling every sound sharpen against my skin. I didn't argue, didn't cry. I placed the knife down, untied my apron, and walked away, their laughter trailing behind me like a cruel melody. That night, while driving through the desert, my phone lit up. "We've decided to cut all contact. Don't come back." Brooke reacted with a red heart. I typed 4 words. "Thank you for clarity." When people say family keeps you grounded, they never tell you it can also bury you. For as long as I can remember, my mother, Caroline, called me the strong one. She said it like praise, but it was really permission to ignore me, to ask for more, to never check if I was tired. Brooke, my sister, was our little sunshine, the one who made mistakes worth forgiving, the one who never had to ask twice. At birthdays, her candles came with cameras and speeches. Mine came with plastic plates and someone else's leftover wishes. When I brought home trophies, Mom said, "You've always been independent." When Brooke forgot to turn in a paper, Mom drove across town to beg her teacher for another chance. Love, in our house, was a spotlight, and it never turned my way. As we grew older, the pattern matured with us, like a disease that learned to hide. Brooke failed her first semester of college, and Mom said she was finding herself. When I graduated early and got a job in Portland, they said I was lucky. Lucky, not hardworking, not deserving, just convenient. Then came the loans. It started with a phone call on a quiet evening, 2 years after I moved north. Mom's voice, soft and heavy. "Honey, your father's business hit a rough patch. We might lose the house if we don't refinance. You've got that great credit, right?" I hesitated. "Just sign with us. It's only paperwork. You're the responsible one." Responsible. That word was always a leash. A week later, I was at a bank in downtown Portland, signing papers I barely understood, a mortgage I didn't own, a promise I didn't make. 6 months after that, Brooke needed a car for her new job, or rather, Mom said she did. "A reliable one," she insisted. "Brooke's starting over. Don't you want to help your sister succeed?" The SUV cost more than my apartment rent, but I signed again, because helping them meant belonging. Every month, I watched 2 automatic withdrawals leave my account. $1,400 for my parents' mortgage. $640 for Brooke's SUV. They never missed a payment because I never did. Whenever I asked if Brooke might take over soon, Mom changed the subject. "Don't pressure her, Eve. You know she's fragile." Fragile? The word always made me want to laugh or scream. Brooke wasn't fragile. She was adored. When I visited home for holidays, she'd sit beside Mom, glowing under the attention. They'd talk about her Florida trip, her new boyfriend, her skincare routine. Someone would ask about me. Mom would smile, polite and distant. "Eve's doing well in Oregon. Always busy, that one." Then she'd change the subject back to Brooke. That's how invisibility feels, not emptiness, but constant replacement. I remember one summer when I came home early from work to surprise them. The living room smelled of barbecue and perfume. Brooke's college friends were over. My parents had bought steaks and wine for them. I said hi. No one looked up. Mom's voice floated through the laughter. "Oh, Eve, you made it. Can you grab more ice?" I did. Of course I did. Because I was the strong one, the helper, the background. Over time, I learned to swallow small humiliations like vitamins daily, quietly, without a sound. Then came graduation. Not mine, Brooke's second degree, in hospitality management, the one I paid part of her tuition for, though no one mentioned that part aloud. Mom planned the whole party, Down to the flowers, the matching napkins, the speeches. I flew in, stood in the crowd, smiled on cue. When it was my turn years later, I didn't even expect a celebration. I'd finished my master's in information systems at night, while working full-time. I didn't tell them until the degree arrived in the mail. Mom had said, "Oh, that's nice, honey," then sent me a photo of Brooke's son, Mason, holding a new puppy. So when they offered to host a little dinner for my graduation this year, I believed, foolishly, it meant something had changed. That maybe, finally, they'd seen me. I was wrong. That day in Scottsdale, I arrived early. The backyard looked like a magazine cover, soft lights, flowers, champagne flutes waiting on the table. Brooke wore a coral dress, Mom her pearls. I placed the cake I'd ordered on the corner of the table. It was small but perfect, simple white frosting, blue cursive, "Congrats, Eve." As the night stretched on, the compliments circled Brooke, as always. Her Florida trip, her son's soccer trophies, her husband's new promotion. No one asked what my degree was in. I tried to stay quiet, just grateful to be included, until Mason's voice cut through the noise. "Aunt Eve, Mom says you only went to school so you can brag." The laughter that followed was thin and sharp, not loud, but long enough to sting. I caught Mom's eyes across the table, waiting for her to correct him. She didn't. She was laughing too. That was the moment the air shifted. When Mason shoved my cake off the table and it shattered on the deck, it wasn't about dessert. It was about everything, every ignored call, every "you're fine," every time love was measured by usefulness. I realized then that, in my family's story, I was never the protagonist. I was the footnote that made everyone else look whole. That night, as I drove through the desert back to Portland, I kept replaying one line in my head, my mother's voice, amused and cutting. "Don't be so sensitive, Evelyn." Her words echoed until they turned hollow. And somewhere between the cactus silhouettes and the empty highway, I understood something I should have years ago. I wasn't leaving them behind. They had left me long before. The drive back to Portland stretched like a confession I hadn't planned to make. Miles of desert turned into forest, forest into rain. By the time I reached home, dawn had started bleeding through the blinds, gray, cold, honest. I dropped my bag on the floor and turned on the light. My apartment was still, the kind of stillness that hums. On the counter, the graduation card Brooke had mailed me weeks earlier sat unopened. "Proud of you, sis. Love you always." The words looked printed, not written. I powered on my laptop. The blue glow washed over the room like an interrogation lamp. There it was, my spreadsheet, the one I'd been updating for years without thinking. 2 recurring entries stared back at me. Mortgage $1,400, SUV $640. Each line was a wound disguised as responsibility. I scrolled through months of transactions, and the realization came slow. Then all at once, I wasn't paying debt. I was paying rent for affection, the kind of love that only existed on due dates. I sat there for a long time, the cursor blinking at the bottom of the sheet, pulsing like a heartbeat that wasn't mine. Then, quietly, I opened my email and typed. Subject: Cosigner Release Inquiry. Dear Willamette First Bank, I'd like to discuss the process for removing my name from 2 active joint loans. Evelyn Hart. I hit send before I could change my mind. Outside, Portland rain began its steady percussion against the glass, not angry, not loud, just patient, like it had been waiting for me to catch up. The next morning, I woke to an email from a man named Mr. Whitaker. He suggested an appointment at their Pearl District branch, Friday at 10. When I arrived, the office smelled faintly of lemon polish and new paper. The walls were a muted green, the kind you find in hospital waiting rooms, calm on the surface, designed to steady people who are falling apart inside. Mr. Whitaker was older, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Miss Hart," he said, offering his hand. "Let's make sense of this, shall we?" He studied my documents, proof of payments, text messages, emails from my mother. His brows tightened. "You've been paying for their mortgage and vehicle for 3 years?" "Yes," I said. "They call it helping." He sighed, tapping his pen once against the folder. You're not the first. People think family and fairness mean the same thing. They don't. His words landed like truth I'd always known but never spoken. He pushed a set of forms toward me. If you can verify you have no ownership of these assets, we'll begin the liability release process. It may take a few weeks, but you'll be free. Free. The word felt foreign, like trying on a language I'd never been allowed to speak. I picked up the pen. The ink rolled smoothly across each line, signatures looping like exits. Each stroke a quiet rebellion. When I finished signing, Mr. Whitaker pressed a small metal stamp to the corner of the papers. The thud was soft, but in my head, it sounded like a lock sliding open. He looked up, his tone gentle but precise. You'll receive confirmation within 7 business days. In the meantime, freeze any joint access to your credit. That's the only way to make the separation complete. Complete? It was such a small word for something that had taken decades to earn. I nodded, gathering my things with hands that trembled, not from fear, but from release. Outside, the Portland air was crisp, almost metallic. Rain had just passed, leaving behind the smell of wet pavement and cedar. The world felt new, though nothing visible had changed. The same buildings, the same street, just lighter somehow. I walked to a nearby cafe and ordered a black coffee. When the barista handed me the cup, she smiled and said, "Rough morning?" I almost laughed. Something like that. I sat by the window, watching people hurry past with umbrellas. They looked so sure of where they were going. I envied that kind of certainty. For me, this was uncharted territory, the life that begins when you finally stop being someone's safety net. That night, I drafted one last message to my mother. Removing my name from all accounts tomorrow. Do not contact me about money again. Take care of the house, it's yours now. No greetings. No closure. Just data. I stared at it for a full minute before pressing send. The phone stayed silent. For the first time in years, I realized silence wasn't punishment, it was oxygen. The following week passed in fragments. Rain, work, the rhythmic clicking of my keyboard at the office. Every now and then, I caught myself glancing at my phone, half expecting her name to appear, but it never did. On Friday morning, an email arrived from Mr. Whitaker. Subject: Update on your request. All liability removal has been initiated, pending final approval. I reread the line until it blurred. The world outside my window was pale with dawn, the city still asleep, unaware that a woman in a small apartment had just reclaimed her own name. I opened my window, letting the cold air in, and whispered into it. "I'm not your strong one anymore." The words left my lips and didn't come back. That night, I slept without dreams. The silence didn't last long. By the next morning, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Mom, Brooke, unknown numbers from Scottsdale. What did you do? You've gone too far. You're destroying this family. Message after message filled the screen, dozens, then hundreds. Not one said, "I'm sorry." By noon, the group chat was a battlefield of guilt and manipulation. Mom wrote, "You don't treat family like this. We raised you." Brooke added, "You've ruined my credit, Eve. My car might be taken. How could you?" I didn't reply. I didn't even delete the messages. I let them sit there like fossils of an extinct language I no longer spoke. Instead, I made coffee, tied my hair back, and opened my laptop. There was work to do. Freedom, I was learning, came with paperwork. That evening, I returned from the grocery store and froze. Someone was pounding on my apartment door hard, furious. The kind of knock that carried a lifetime of entitlement. Through the peephole, I saw them. My mother, my sister. Caroline and Brooke, faces tight with rage, mascara smudged, eyes wild from hours of anger. "Evelyn!" Mom's voice cracked through the door. "Open this right now. We need to talk." Brooke's voice followed, higher, trembling. "You ruined everything. The bank froze our accounts. My fiancé's threatening to leave. You think this is funny?" Funny. The same word they used when Mason destroyed my cake. It landed the same way, heavy, absurd, cutting. I steadied my breath, reached for my phone, and opened the emergency call app. 911, the operator answered. What's your emergency? My family is outside my apartment, I said evenly. They're shouting and refusing to leave. Do you know them personally? Yes, I replied. Then, after a pause that felt like a lifetime, I added, but not anymore. Within minutes, the flashing blue and red lights painted the street below. 2 officers, 1 man, 1 woman, approached calmly. I watched through the hallway camera as Mom gestured wildly, pointing at my door. She's my daughter! She's stolen from us! We just need to talk to her. Brooke was sobbing, shaking her head, words tumbling between gasps. The male officer raised a hand, firm but not unkind. Ma'am, this is private property. If she's asked you to leave, you need to leave. Caroline's voice cracked. I'm her mother. I have rights. The officer shook his head. You have rights as a mother, but not the right to trespass. Through the intercom, I spoke softly, my own voice surprising me with its steadiness. If they act like intruders, treat them as such. The officer nodded once, like he understood everything without another word. He gestured toward the stairs. It's time to go. Mom turned toward the door one last time, eyes burning, voice raw with fury. You'll regret this, Evelyn. Blood doesn't disappear just because you say so. I didn't answer. The lock stayed firm. Their footsteps echoed down the stairwell, heavy, uneven, a rhythm of defeat. When the sound finally faded, silence filled the hallway like oxygen returning to a suffocating room. I slid down the inside of my door, phone still in my hand, the 911 recording still running. My palms trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of finality. For the first time in years, I wasn't the one being chased. I was the one drawing the line. Later that night, I saved the audio file and renamed it. Boundaries, the 17th of April 2025. The next morning, the world seemed almost normal. Sunlight slipped through the blinds, painting the floor in pale gold. For a brief second, I thought maybe it was over. Then my phone buzzed again. A Facebook notification. My mother's post glared back at me, large font, righteous tone. Sometimes the child you trust most betrays you the worst. Evelyn stole from her parents and destroyed our credit. Some people never learn gratitude. Below it, the comments multiplied like mold. Neighbors, old church friends, distant relatives all eager to weigh in. Poor Caroline, after all she did for her girls. Ungrateful kids are a curse these days. I heard she used her parents' money to buy that apartment in Portland. I stared at the screen, the words swimming in gray light. The old me, the one desperate to explain, to prove my innocence, stirred for a second, then went quiet again. I had nothing left to prove. Instead, I opened a new email. Subject: Personal matter. Clarification. Hi team. If you see rumors about me online, please ignore them. Some people fight boundaries with lies. I'm fine and appreciate your discretion. Best, Eve. I pressed send, then closed my laptop. Truth doesn't need volume. It only needs time. 3 days later, an envelope arrived at my office. The logo in the corner read, Willamette First Bank. Inside was a single letter. This document confirms that Evelyn Hart has been fully released from all liabilities regarding the joint mortgage and vehicle loan under the names of Caroline and Brooke Hart. At the bottom, the embossed gold seal shimmered faintly in the light. I traced it with my finger, feeling the ridges of my own name unburdened, finally whole. That soft thud when I placed the letter on my desk felt louder than all their shouting combined. It wasn't revenge. It was justice, quiet, meticulous, undeniable. By evening, the Facebook post was gone. Maybe someone told her the truth. Maybe the bank called. It didn't matter. The damage had burned itself out, and in its ashes I felt something unfamiliar. Peace. Weeks passed. The noise faded the way storms do, not with silence, but with distance. No more calls. No more accusations. Just the hum of the refrigerator, the rain against my Portland window, the sound of a life that finally belonged to me. At work, I buried myself in projects. Late nights turned into quiet promotions. During one meeting, my CEO, Marissa, said, "Evelyn, you lead with steadiness. People trust that." It was the first time anyone had said steadiness without meaning submission. At home, I built small rituals: coffee at dawn, yoga by the window, soup simmering in the evenings. My apartment smelled of rosemary and paper. The air felt new. Then one morning, my phone lit up with a message I didn't expect. It was from Brooke. "I'm sorry for everything. No excuses." 6 words. Simple. Unadorned. For a long time, I stared at the screen, waiting for anger, or tears, or maybe forgiveness. But none came. I just set the phone down, softly, like placing a stone back into the river it came from. Forgiveness, I realized, isn't about reopening the door. Sometimes it's about closing it gently, firmly, and walking away without the need to look back. Outside, Portland's sky was the color of silver rain. The Willamette River glimmered in the distance, endless and calm. I opened the window and let the air in. It smelled of wet earth, of quiet freedom. And somewhere beneath the steady rhythm of the rain, I heard it, that faint, steady pulse of peace. The kind that comes when you finally stop explaining your worth. When silence stops meaning absence. When it starts meaning control. I whispered to the empty room, "Silence isn't weakness. It's the sound of power surviving." And for the first time, I believed it.